Hi guys, how's everyone doing? Photo tutorials here. And as you can see by the image what I've got up in Photoshop, it's actually the Terminator 2 image of Arnold Schwarzenegger and half man, half machine. It was actually the image used on the back DVD cover of Terminator 2, Judgment Day. And I'm going to show you how to do a Photoshop Terminator. Obviously this is not the image that I've taken, but I'll show you my version that I did, which I did several years ago, and that's it there. That's my version of the original, which is that. Now I know it looks now like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I thought it would be a really good exercise to do, and it took me quite a long time to get the images together to be able to do this. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do the version of this my way. Now this is going to be quite a condensed exercise because this, you can appreciate the image and the layers that goes into this. It's working with multiple layers, so it does tend to increase the file size once it's put together and slows the computer down. So I'm going to do a very condensed version, give you a brief instruction of how to sort of go about making it anyway. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to show you the images that you need. The first two images we're going to start off with, I'll just open these up, are these two images here. Okay, now this is the image that we're going to start with, and this is an image, this is a very good friend of mine who volunteered to fill in for me for this actual shot. And I just want to talk about a little bit about this image, because if you looked at the original one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, you'll have seen that there was quite a lot of side lighting taken on the original photo. There's a reason for that. When you look at the shadow detail, which was taken around on the right hand side, this shadow detail, the original was exactly the same, and the reason why is because when you go to blend the two images together from the human to the cyborg, it creates these strong shadows, creates a good sort of blending background for the overlay over the top. So this particular image of my friend here, he's lit from one light source using a 500 joule photo lamp. And basically what I did was, once I got all the flash exposure correct, I then turned the power of the head unit down. It was shot on full power. I then turned it down to 3/4 power, and then so forth. Half power, 3/4 power, half power, quarter power, an eighth of its power, and a 16th of its power, and 1/32 of its power. And basically, once I got the aperture set right, then I had to reduce the power of the flash just to get the level of shading that I needed to on the right hand side. It was originally shot on a Nikon D3, which is a very sensitive sensor, and of course I had to reduce the power of the flash units to get this shading effect. So that's the first image out the way. This particular image, I was quite fortunate enough to have a trip to Florida in the United States around about 2011 with my two sons, and when you get into Universal Studios, they have a Terminator 2 ride, and when you come out of the ride, there's a 6 foot, 7 foot endoskeleton statue, which is on display, which is up for sale if you've got the $6,000-7,000 that's requested for it. But basically, that's how I got to take this particular image of the endoskeleton here. So it was a great opportunity for me to take my camera gear. And again, this was shot on the Nikon D3, so I'm going to briefly show you how to go about getting these two images together. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use I'm going to use the endoskeleton figure as a background layer, and I'm going to use the human figure as the front layer. And there's a reason for doing that, is because what I want to do is, once I get the human skin overlaid over the top of the skeleton, I then want to remove parts of the human skin to make it look as though the skeleton, you know, the skin's been burnt off, the skeleton showing through the skin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that image into this one, okay? And I've done that wrong, I do apologise. I should have clicked on move, and I forgot to do that. So the way we go about it, we select the move tool and just simply click and drag that image over into the endoskeleton one. Once we've done that, we can now close that image. We don't need it anymore. Now what we've got here is we've got these two images here. And also, can I just comment as well, don't be worried about the two different backgrounds, because once we've got these sort of two characters put together, and we've got it all blended off nicely, what we're going to do is we're going to select the outline and that, and then put it into another background. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to shove that over to there, and straight away you can clearly see the problems that we're going to have. If you look at the size of the face on I'll call him Terry. If you see Terry's face, it's a lot smaller in length than, excuse me, the endoskeleton's face. So we clearly need to have a little play about with the scaling on both of those images. So we've got this front image selected, and what I'm going to do is so I can see where I'm going with this, I'm going to reduce the opacity so I can see slightly the layer underneath, like so. I think that'll do us about there, yeah. What I want to try and do is it's the eyes. You see how the eyes want to line up with the mouth. Well, that is more or less sort of spot on, but we can see that the two chins don't line up. See, if we line the two chins up, half the chins up, which is there, we can see that the eyes and the mouth and the teeth are quite away off. So what I want to do is I'm going to play about, try to get the eyes level first, like so, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edit up here, top left hand corner, click on edit, go down to transform and click on scale. And what I want to do is I'm just going to play about, just mucking about with both images to try and get them to scale up as best as I can. In the real world, it doesn't really matter if you're out. You know, photography is meant to be fun. As long as we get the sort of blending of the images, as long as we get, oh, that's not far off there. That's not far off at all. As I say, this is just a quick tutorial. I'm going to leave that as it is, because that looks fairly okay to me. I'm going to go with the scaling on that, and I'm just going to click on that arrow, and that'll scale everything up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my graphic pen. I'm going to zoom in on this. Okay. And what I want to do is I need to come back down here and select the eraser tool. Okay, that's that one there. This little square long oblong box, eraser tool. Don't click on background eraser, because obviously what it'll do is that'll erase the background, which is the endoskeleton, and the skeleton to come through his skin. So make sure that you click on the plain eraser tool. Now I've got, if you look up here, you keep the opacity, we need to reduce the opacity, and I'll tell you why we're going to reduce the opacity. If we leave it at 100, excuse me, if we leave it at 100, okay, and we just edit that away, you can see we've got a really sharp edge there, the way it flows into the skin. We don't want that. What we want to do is we want to take it down to about 65%, I would say even less. And what we want to do, this area was a really good area to work on. See if I can demonstrate this area, is where we have a little bit of shading coming through, and we can create a little bit of depth with the shadows, like so. In there, that was a good area. Now that tells me that I need to take it down even further. Okay, so I'm going to take that down. Like so. Just get rid of this. Right, we got rid of that. So I'm going to take that down to about 25%, I think. Don't forget, as you go over it, it keeps adding another 25%, another. So we don't want to take it too much. So what I want to do is, again, I want to reduce the size of that brush. That'll do us. So again, what I want to do is, I'm just going to run this up to this area here. I'm just going to start erasing some of the bits that I want to come through, that I want to show. Now you've got a much more subtle blend there as it comes into the skin. And what we can do is we go over the actual, where the actual metal parts show through, we can just keep on going over them so that they shine through a little bit better, so that they break through that skin a lot better. But where the edges meet up to the skin, we sort of want to leave, if you like round here. Around here it'll just be a nice subtle, and you can see how we're just creating just this lovely little breaking of the skin. Just looks as though it's breaking out of the skin. I mean, you know, this is an image that you've got time to work on to get things looking just the way that you want them to look. So again, you know, take your time. It's Photoshop, and it's, you know, you've got all the time in your world. And I mean, the amount of tools and I mean the power of this thing that you've got at your disposal is absolutely great. I think people underestimate the power of Photoshop. I'm just going to leave it for now at that. Maybe do something around near the eye. Have a little bit of the eye breaking through there. And here we have a nice little shadow area, and we can break this through into the skin as well to make this look a little bit more realistic. This is what I did on the original. Again, just where those metal parts are, we just want to show those through. The computer's starting to slow down a little bit now, so it's probably going to take its time. You can see it's making all the adjustments now. And what we can do is we can just add some little shadow areas up there. And like I say, you can you can reduce. You can go in with a finer brush and reduce some of these effects. Like up here as I'm doing now, and you can refine it and make it look, more realistic. This is just a very quick demo, and obviously we want to put that little red spot on his eye. Can't leave that out. Just take that to full opacity to see what it looks like, and there you can see it's starting to sort of take shape. If anything, we could sort of take the opacity of this down and the flow down, maybe it's a lot more, to be honest with you. It wouldn't do any harm. There is a little piece up the top here that I used to want to bring through. And it's this section here. This was a good section to have a play about with. This edge, trying to get this edge of this metal. This looked really good when it was done. Obviously, all of this can be, all this metal circular section can be shown through, but we just want to bleed ever so gently into these edges, so that when we take it back up to full opacity, it just blends in nice and smooth. A little bit of lag there. And what I'll do is I'll just increase the opacity to do that centre and the brush size. And we want all that shadow area there more or less to be gone. See these lines up here, we want to try and just get some of those. I mean, these head hens round here on Terry, so what we'll do is we'll try and squeeze them in if we can. We'll reduce that opacity down a bit and the brush size, and basically what we're going to try and get in these little lines running off up here, which are like the seam lines of the metal. And if we take that opacity up a bit, okay. Now then, this is the big one, because what we're going to do, I think what we'll do is we'll go into a full size. You can see how it's starting to take shape now. But obviously we want all of this right side of Terry's face. We need that to be gone. So I'll just get me brush size set. And just take that opacity up slightly. Because what we're going to do on this right side, if you can see Terry's head here, you can see it's disappearing. Well, what we want to do is we can remove all of this right hand side here, but we want to be careful because this is the separation down the middle where the shadow areas is. I'm going to do as much as I can on the right, okay, but what I want to do is I'm going to leave this ear in. My computer's slowing a bit, I do apologise. Because this, if you look at the original image, this ear was sort of left in. I run out of memory on this computer, to be honest with you. So you can see how it's just sort of coming on, you know, sort of get rid of most of this. And if I just show you briefly, you can see the little pieces coming down here. This is just done very rough. It's just to give you a guideline of how it went around doing the original one. It's the opacity in the flow that you need to reduce and get correct, you know, and get it looking realistic. And as you can see, we're coming up to the shadows on the right hand side, and I'm just going to run some detail through into these shadows off the robot. Now can you see how this is blending? See how I'm erasing all the skin to bring that robot back. Now just look how it's blending into those shadows beautifully. Okay, I'll just see if I can zoom in on that. There, can you see how that flow is just absolutely beautiful? It's absolutely perfect. That's the reason why. If you look at the way that blends into the shadows, that's why we have the light source from one side, so that natural shadow on the right hand side, which is left behind off the flash, it just blends in beautifully with these shadows here. You can see it's a lot cleaner blend. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce the, when I come, because this is the section that's joining the two layers more or less together, I'm just going to reduce the flow and the opacity on this. I might, yeah, I'll reduce the brush as well, because it's at 147. That'll do. I'm going to reduce it down to there, and that gives us a little bit more control. Okay, so we can take a little bit of this over into the see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over to the halfway point, but where his nose is, I'm just going to have it set back. And the reason why I'm doing that is because you've got this sort of blending mode at this point, and this one's set back to the right hand side. It just gives a little bit of depth. It just adds a little bit of depth to this layer. So obviously, because I've gone right up to the nostril there, doesn't mean to say I'm going to go all the way right up to in line with that shadow. I'm going to actually hold back from some of that shadow line. And then what I'll do is I'll sort of bring bits of it forward again. Okay, and then the neck we've left in the center shadow line. What we can do is, as that shadow fades off out, we can bring it forward. So it doesn't look uniform, it looks a little bit staggered, if you know what I mean. But that's, as you can see, that's starting to take shape quite nicely. But this, again, it's something you need to take your time on and get right. I'm just sort of rushing all the way through this, just as a demonstration, so you can look at the techniques that I used to create it and have a go yourself, because you know there's okay, some of you will know how to do that, quite a lot of you will know how to do it, but there's quite a lot of people out there who would like to have a go at this, but they don't, or they wouldn't necessarily know how to go on with it. And again, it's nice to have sort of a little bit of overlap where, you know, you got some of the cyborg comes into the skin, and then some of the skin comes back over into the cyborg. This is what I'm trying to achieve with this right now. Is just so all we doing is we're just using the eraser tool. If any of you are wondering, again, just using different opacities. There's your opacity there, reduced down to 25%, and reducing the flow rate down to 32%. And eventually we will, you know, we'll get there. No question about it. When I actually got this image done, there's a lab that I use down near Liverpool who they printed the image up for me, and I had it done on I actually had the image printed on metallic gloss, and it looked absolutely tremendous when it was all done, with the flames in the background and whatnot. And I had it on a black border, and you know, nice black bordered mount card. It looked really, really well. And I actually give it to my friend who's in this picture, Terry. I actually give him it as a 50th birthday present, believe it or not. He's a great guy. And he did me well, posing for me. I was going to actually call it Terminator, which is quite funny. I thought Terminator instead of the Terminator. But yeah, we can see that's sort of coming on quite nicely there. And it doesn't matter if you're going over to this bit here, because as I say, what we're going to do, I'll show you just now. We're just going to put it into another background. Right, if I reduce that, so you can see there how it's coming on. We're at 100% opacity there, so we can see it how it's all coming through. You know, all of this side obviously can be blended a lot better, but it's just taking the time to do it. I mean, we're probably into about 15-20 minutes of this tutorial, and I don't want to drag it on too long, because I don't want to get people sort of a little bit bored with it. So I'm just going to leave that for now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the polygonal lasso tool, and I'm just going to enlarge this. Whoops, wrong way. I do apologise. I'm going to use the polygonal lasso tool, and I'm just going to make a selection like so. Now what I'll do is I'll do this quite roughly, just to show you what the next stage of the Terminator process would be. And basically it's just making the selection look sort of equal on both sides. See, all of this, we're just going to clone out all this bit of bleed that we got on the edges doesn't really matter. You know, a lot of you might have thought I was being a bit clumsy, but honestly, when you have it all planned out and you know sort of where you're going with it, there's a lot you can get away with. Like all of this here, just really it doesn't matter. Probably gone a bit too far with that, so I'll go down to there, round to there. So I need to try and cut across over to here like so. Again, when you're doing this selection tool, the best technique to use for this, I think I remember right when I did it, is I used the paths tool. And when you're using the paths tool, it gives you like little pointers where you can drag and curve the pointers so that you get these angles and whatnot absolutely spot on. But as I say, just for speed, I'm trying to condense this tutorial down. An image what took me 40 odd hours to do down into about 20 to 25 minutes. So have a look at the paths tool and then play about with that, and then make your selections. You know what you do is you create all the way around the outline, click on them, and then you move on. And then when you've created the entire path on the outline, is you would then go back and then you'd adjust each path that you've selected. You would then go back and readjust the alignment on the path. Now, if you look, if I was to take that level across there, I've probably gone. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that off by there, really, and you just take it back along here. Then once you see that circle, that's your selection made. Now what we're going to do, that's your selection done there. We're just going to leave that there. What we're going to file, we're going to open, and we're going to open a background, and we're going to open one of these flame backgrounds. Now I've just pulled one of these off from nowhere just to sort of show you. The actual original background what I used was off a Call of Duty poster, which was on one of my son's PlayStation 3 games, and I photographed it and I used it for the background. So we're going to drag that. I'm hoping that it's, yep. Sorry. Sorry, I've made a mistake. I'll undo the move. What I should have done is history, drag selection, and delete. Right, go back onto this. What I should have done is layer, flatten image. Okay, so that image is flattened. Sorry about that. That should work now. There we go. I do apologise. We won't save any changes to that. So basically, there we have the image transferred over into the flames. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to edit, transform, and we're going to go to scale. And we're going to try and move to find the top of the image, and we're going to rescale it. If I go on that image there, oh, it won't let me. Never mind, I'll do it when I've scaled this up. I'll just leave it at that for now anyway. I'll click on background, image rotation, 90 degree clockwise, undo, undo. Yeah, what I should have done there actually is I should have rotated the background to so it was a sort of a portrait rather than a landscape format, so I do apologise for that. It doesn't matter anyway, because you can do it, you know, it adds more of a background to the image, but basically, yeah, that's what I should have done, is I should have sort of done the flames the opposite way around, but to tell you the truth, it's not sort of, the way the flames is being photographed, it's not really sort of feasible to do it that way. But basically, you can see where I'm coming from with that, and obviously because the shoulders don't go up to the edge, then basically what we do is we take the edges up to his shoulders. Go on. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. I think what we'll do is we'll transform that, we'll scale that, but we'll give it a crop again. So basically that's very roughly done, just to sort of show you. Like I say, you've got bags of time to play around with this, as I did, just to get it right. But you can see where I'm coming from with all I'm showing you is the techniques of doing the Terminator, and basically that's how you would go about getting it done. And you can see if you zoom in and you look on the blending mode, the way it's being blended in, using these shadows. If you're getting the photography right in the first place, then you can make the blending options a lot more easier for you to get along with, and as you see, you can make your selections more subtle, as we've done up on here, and it's a very interesting approach to something that I've never done before, and I actually enjoyed doing it. But as I say, that's how I went about doing my Photoshop Terminator, and I'll drag that over to one side, and I'll just show you the original that I worked on, so you can get a look at what the actual finished one looks like. So there we are. That's the original one. That's the one that we've just been showing you. We'll just pull them to one side. There you go. Obviously this image is a lot lighter than the image that I've used here. What I've probably done is I've probably toned this down a lot, as you can see, and it's showing up a lot more texture on the head there, and it's brought that, and I've probably done the same actually with the robot, as you can see there, is darkened everything down. But you can see if you play about with this one on the right a lot more, then you'll obviously get it looking more and more like this. You can see what you do is you just like sort of do all the little cutaways so you can see the flames behind his head. I know it probably wouldn't have looked like that, and obviously you alter the ear. The ear is a little bit larger than what it would be on that side, but what you do is you, as you can see, is I've cloned this one to match the other one, and basically that's how you go about doing your Photoshop Terminator. Try it out, and get as many people involved as you can, and try and terminate some of your friends, and see how they look. This is something you can all have a crack at, and you probably have a great deal of fun with it. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I know it's sort of quite a long tutorial, but I hope you do try it, and if you do have a crack at it, please get in touch with me and send me your finished results, and I'd love to have a look at them, just to see how you've got on with it. So thanks for watching, and I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.